You might have thought the reason you keep starting and stopping is simply a lack of discipline. But what if the real issue is not your effort, but the foundation you are building it on? Something deeper than willpower alone. In the next few minutes, we are going to uncover why consistency keeps breaking down and what actually needs to change before discipline can last. Think about a familiar pattern in daily life. You wake up with a clear intention to change. You make a mental plan for the day, feeling a sense of clarity in the morning. But slowly, as the day unfolds, direction is lost. A few phone distractions, delayed tasks, a quiet postponement of later. There is a real tension between what you sincerely want to become and what you repeatedly fall back into. It is not framed as a dramatic failure, but as a quiet confusion. I know what I should do. I genuinely want to change. Yet the outcome does not align with the intention. It brings a lingering frustration without self-hate, a heavy awareness without control. We are not going to stay at the surface level of habits, motivation, or temporary discipline strategies. We are going deeper into what actually governs consistency from the inside and why effort alone keeps falling short. If this already resonates with you, let me know in the comments. No pressure, just honesty. And as we begin, there is one uncomfortable question we need to sit with first. Why does self-improvement often feel like something you have to restart again and again? Let's go into it. The most exhausting thing might not be failure. The most exhausting thing is constantly feeling like you need to fix yourself one more time. Think about how we start a new chapter. At the beginning of the year, we make plans, enthusiastically download habit trackers, buy a fresh new notebook, and set a goal to wake up early tomorrow. But then, just a few weeks later, everything goes right back to the way it was. You find yourself right back at the starting line, facing a feeling that is painfully familiar: failure. And here is your natural reflex: I just need to try harder. The life of a modern adult seems to have turned into an endless series of self-improvement projects. There is always a new plan to execute, always a new goal to conquer, always a promise to yourself that next time you will do better. We operate like a machine that is constantly upgrading its software. But stop for a moment. Do you realize that you are living in a chronic state of deficiency? It is just like a verse from the book of Ecclesiastes. All things are wearisome, more than one can say. The eye never has enough of seeing, nor the ear its fill of hearing. We search for perfection, but all we get back is exhaustion. There is a massive line between healthy growth and the obsession with self-repair. Healthy growth stems from the joy of expanding your horizons. On the contrary, the obsession with self-repair is rooted in a toxic belief. Right now, I am not good enough. Many of us have accidentally turned our spiritual growth, our very faith, into a self-optimization project. You pray more, you read more, you try to be holier, but deep down, you are still using your own strength to cover up your insecurities. You turn the sacred into a checklist to grade yourself, but that does not fix the root cause. It only leaves you exhausted on a worn-out path disguised as effort. Remember the comforting invitation in the book of Matthew: "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." That invitation does not require you to immediately become a better version of yourself just to be accepted. So if the real problem isn't that you are trying too little, then where does it lie? Could we have been asking the wrong question from the very beginning? If trying harder does not create lasting change, maybe we need to re-examine what we believe about transformation. We are taught that if we want to become someone else, we just need to try harder than the person we were yesterday. Look at the world around us. Productivity culture surrounds every corner. To-do lists overflow on our desks. We chase after new time management systems, constantly hunting for the next optimal method to upgrade ourselves. Modern society continuously pours a unison message into your ears. Willpower is the answer. Effort is the answer. Discipline is the answer. Productivity is the answer. Yes, this model can generate short-term results. You can wake up early for a week, or stick to a schedule for a month, but it usually fails to change who you are from the inside out. It pushes you into a dead-end loop. Try your best, burn out completely, blame yourself, then force yourself to try even harder. Try, burn out, blame yourself, try harder. Yet still, nothing has truly changed. Our perspective is often swapped here. Not all change is transformation. Some changes are just temporary behavior control, like trying to suppress a tightly coiled spring. It is not your core nature. This state of deadlock was sharply described in the book of Romans. For I do not understand what I am doing, for I am not practicing what I would like to do, but I am doing the very thing I hate. The Apostle Paul pointed out the absolute helplessness when humans try to use willpower to save themselves. Wretched man that I am, who will set me free from the body of this death? Culture teaches you how to modify your behavior, but it is powerless to recreate your nature. You cannot use the very self that is burning out to heal your own self. And that is when we have to face a much harder question. If willpower isn't the foundation of transformation, then what is? Look back at the entire journey we have walked through. You blame yourself for abandoned plans, for notebooks with only a few pages written, for habit apps forgotten after a week. You automatically assume the cause lies in laziness, in your lack of determination, or insufficient discipline. But the truth might not be like that at all. Maybe you didn't fail because of a lack of resolve. Maybe you are using a model that was never designed to create what you are looking for. You cannot use a wrong map to arrive at a right address. Nor can you force a tree to bear sweet fruit when its roots are already withered from the inside. We have spent too many years trying to control the surface, the behaviors, the habits, the productivity. But we forget that behavior is just a mirror reflecting something much deeper, identity and belief. That is why all self-effort has a very short expiration date. When you try to use your own strength to carry a renewed life, you are not just fighting bad habits, you are fighting your own old nature. And in that war, human willpower is always the first thing to surrender. So, if willpower is not the foundation of transformation, what actually is? Scripture does not start with behavior modification. Scripture starts with the heart. You know exactly what you should do, but in the end, you don't do it. You truly want to pray, to spend quiet time, but then you procrastinate. You long for change, but somehow, you still return to the old ruts and habits of yesterday. It is a deeply frustrating reality. But here, Scripture takes us further than modern culture can ever see. Romans chapter 7 does not just describe wrong outward behaviors. It paints a raw, honest picture of the deep conflict right inside human nature. It is a persistent war between the flesh and the spirit, just as the book of Galatians says. For the flesh sets its desire against the spirit, and the spirit against the flesh. For these are in opposition to one another. That is what Paul is describing. Behavior is just the tip of the iceberg, the symptoms showing up on the surface. The real root lies deep within, from our desires, from the orientation of the heart, and from what is actually ruling your inner world. If you are going through this war every single day, please remember, you are not weird, and you are definitely not alone. This spiritual battle has been described by the saints for thousands of years, and here is the perspective that can heal you. This struggle does not prove that you have failed. On the contrary, the battle proves that there are two forces actually pulling you in two different directions. It shows that your spirit is still alive, still longing for what is good, and refusing to compromise with the old ways. But if this is a spiritual battle, the next question is, what actually creates change? We often try to produce fruit before taking care of the root. Think about two people who both want to change their lives. One constantly forces themselves into rigid discipline, using pressure and guilt as fuel to run. The other chooses to slow down the busyness, spending time building their life around the presence of God. Which one do you think will go further? That is the core difference. We have confused self-effort with abiding for a very long time. mistaken self-reliance for total dependence. You can use willpower to force yourself to maintain a good behavior for a week, a month, or even a year, but you cannot carry it for a lifetime. Behavior created from pressure is like a cut flower placed in a vase. It looks beautiful at first, but it has no life, and it will surely wither. Scripture does not call us to be laborers producing hired fruit. In the book of John, Jesus says very clearly, "Abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine, so neither can you unless you abide in me." True renewal must go from the inside out. When the heart is transformed by the truth, when the mind is renewed, as Romans chapter 12 describes, new actions will automatically overflow naturally. Healthy action is not the source of transformation. Action is the result of transformation. Many people think that discipline creates sustainable transformation. But the perspective of the kingdom goes the opposite way. It is transformation that creates sustainable discipline. When you love God, discipline is no longer an exhausting obligation, but a natural longing. And when that is properly understood, everything begins to change. You don't need a more determined version of yourself. You need a different source of life. We have walked through a long journey of realization together. From the days of blaming ourselves for repeated failures, to the moment of waking up and realizing we were applying a wrong model of repair. We used to think it was a technical glitch of willpower, but then Scripture stripped it down to a fierce spiritual battle right within the desires of the old self. And finally, we have touched the core truth. The source of change has never been about forcing ourselves through effort, but about abiding and depending. Consistency in life is not the starting point. Consistency is the result. When you understand this, you will no longer have to live on short-term bursts of motivation that quickly fade away. You begin to build a stable life day by day, gentle yet firm, deeply anchored in His presence. The spiritual life is not a process of trying your hardest to force yourself to become someone else. It is a process of surrendering so that God can reshape your entire inner being. That is the real hope. Just like the powerful promise in the book of Philippians, "For it is God who is at work in you, both to will and to work for His good pleasure." You no longer have to fight alone. You are being gloriously transformed from glory to glory by the Spirit of the Lord, just as the book of Corinthians declares. Every self-imposed burden is now lifted. A new source of life or din is now lifted. A new source of life has been unlocked. And right now, let us step into that peace together through prayer. It is not a lack of discipline that is breaking your consistency, but that the way you understand and build inner change has not yet touched the true root of who you are. What needs to be adjusted is not just the behavior, but the foundation where that behavior is born. If you've made it this far, you're someone who is no longer satisfied with surface-level change, but is genuinely seeking a deeper and more lasting transformation. Let's keep walking this journey with honesty, depth, and steady faith, one step at a time. If this message gave you a clearer perspective on your own journey, share what stood out to you in the comments below. No pressure, just reflection and honesty. If you want to stay encouraged and continue growing in clarity, faith, and consistency, feel free to join our community by subscribing. You are not starting over alone each time. You are being shaped through every step forward, even the slow ones.